to like invite that the board members are invited to.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Tony?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Roxanne?
Second.
Karen, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're going to do the minutes separately because I know we're going to have some abstentions. So a motion to approve the regular minute of May 10th, 2017.
So moved.
Roxanne?
Second.
Melissa? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, approval of the minutes for the special board meeting of Board of Education on May 31st, 2017.
So moved.
Roxanne?
Second.
Michelle, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Chris and Mike, anybody else? Okay, thank you. All right. Presentation, Ms. Jen, would you like to start?
Sure. So the first presentation we're going to have this evening is for our 2018 Teacher of the Year, and we have the tradition of the person, or people in this case, who nominate the Teacher of the Year are invited back to the Board of Education meeting to introduce our Teacher of the Year to you. So I'd like to invite Dina and Nicole to the microphone.
Denise Seymour is a phenomenal teacher who is extremely involved in the Fisher School community. She is one of the first teachers to arrive each day and one of the last to leave. Her interest in the success of all students is of the utmost importance. She embraces the new initiatives and researches how to provide the best instruction. She uses her independent time to read about current methods and programs because she wants to learn. She takes feedback and reflects on how to improve. She has taken the lead of our PBIS committee and can often be found leading many of our school's town meetings.
Upon walking into her classroom, it is evident of her affection for all of her students, even the most difficult. And that feeling is reciprocated. The students know that she loves her job and them. This is what they had to say about her. She's amazing, kind, and caring.
She understands her students.
She makes learning fun and exciting with projects and activities.
She is funny.
She knows how to cheer people up.
She is always calm.
She helps everyone.
She teaches well.
She reteaches and clarifies things when we don't get it.
She appreciates others.
She explains things in a way that make them easier to understand.
She helps us pick good books.
She takes care of us and helps us solve our problems.
She is the nicest teacher in the world.
She follows sports and is smart, even though she likes the Yankees.
She is the best.
I love Mrs. Seymour.
She is teacher-tastic.
Let's congratulate Mrs. Denise Seymour, Plymouth's 2017-18 Teacher of the Year.
Good evening, Dr. Semmel, Mrs. Johnson, and members of the Board of Education. After receiving numerous cards, emails, and Facebook congratulations the past few weeks or so, I want to personally thank everyone for their extremely kind words. Being nominated for Teacher of the Year is an honor in its own right, but to be chosen to represent a district filled with such passionate and talented individuals is extremely humbling. The feeling is beyond surreal, and I am truly grateful. I grew up in a household that valued education. My parents' philosophy was old-fashioned and simple. Work hard in school because you're supposed to, do your homework because it is your responsibility, and give to others because it makes you a good person. I am one of 4 daughters and therefore also learned to fish, chop wood, and to follow stars so you could find your way home if you ever got lost. But our moral compass always pointed to family. nothing, and I mean nothing, was more important than family. The funny thing about family is that you didn't choose them, you can't trade them, but out of the billions of human beings on our planet, they're the ones who know you the best. They're the ones who cherish you and whom you cherish in return, whether they're your biological family or otherwise. I am very fortunate because I am blessed with 2 families and delighted that they are here tonight. My heartfelt gratitude goes to my husband, John, children, Lauren and Justin, my sisters, and to my extended family for supporting me in my teaching career. You understand that teaching is just not my profession, but a huge part of my heart and soul. If it weren't for all of your encouragement, I wouldn't be standing here right now. My other family is my Fisher family, my colleagues, my dear friends, my Charlie's Angels. I work in a district filled with a dynamic and dedicated group of men and women who bring their passion, patience, and perseverance to our schools each and every day. It is a privilege to work with you and to learn from you. Your support means the world to me. Last but not least, I need to mention the children that I've worked with here in Plymouth. You see, teachers are important to our students in ways we can never really understand. They spend such a very short time with us, and we hope that we have prepared them for the next grade, have inspired them in some way, and have given them the faith to believe that they can make a difference in this world. However, students are important to teachers in ways we totally understand. They are the reason we learn current best practice, the reason we differentiate, the reason we work tirelessly to provide the education they so rightly deserve. They are the reason I am the educator I am today. They have taught me more than any professor, staff developer, or book I have ever read. It is because of their willingness to accept the growth mindset model that I applied and interviewed for Teacher of the Year. And so I say thank you to all of Seymour's kids, past and present, for this wonderful award. I am very honored to be Plymouth's Teacher of the Year. Thank you so very much.
Second. Afterwards, during the recess, yeah. We're going to do another presentation, and then we'll have a recess, so we'll get a chance to do even more pictures and things like that. So I have to say my own comments about Denise as well, because Denise is actually one of the first teachers I had a chance to kind of get to meet when I came into, new to the building, and she made me feel welcome just as much as I think she makes her kids feel welcome. And she's a fantastic choice for this. And she's been pushing that whole idea of the growth mindset with her kids. And they've even had a chance to mentor some of her students. I've taken on a couple of kids from her previous 4th grade class, and it's been amazing what she's done with those kids. And it's just great to have you represent all of our teachers here in Plymouth, and just so proud to be able to have you be our Teacher of the Year. So I know you're looking extremely forward to presenting to the entire staff at convocation, because that's always the highlight for the Teacher of the Year, to speak to all their colleagues, because that's so easy to do. But really, you have my appreciation as well, and congratulations. And we thought we'd try something new this year as well. We have, I don't know if they've ever done this in the past at the Board of Education, but each year we have a number of retirees from our district. Staff members, whether they be teachers or custodians or paraprofessionals or whatever the case may be, folks who have given their working lives to make our school system better. So this year we also wanted to kind of piggyback onto the Teacher of the Year, the opportunity to highlight our retirees this year. So as a former math teacher, I like numbers, so we have 4 people here who are, we're recognizing tonight. We had other retirees, but perhaps they were a little bashful to come out tonight. But the 4 people who are here tonight represent 131 years of experience in our district. 131 years. Now, they might be like, dear God, like, you're making me sound old. But we didn't want to do a huge amount of fanfare, but we think it's really appropriate to honor these folks as they retire and go on to bigger and better things and healthy and happy, prosperous lives as they leave us. So we have 4 folks here who are absolutely awesome. And what we're going to do is I'm simply going to call them up. We're going to say just a couple of words. We're not going to draw this out too much or try to embarrass them too much. So we'll honor all of them, and then once we're done doing all of that, we'll do pictures and take a recess for all those folks and more pictures for Teacher of the Year. And of course, because this is a party atmosphere this evening, there's cake. So we have the obligatory cake that Dr. Summel makes sure that we have to be able to celebrate people. So I hope you guys enjoy cake. So the first person we're going to call up is Cindy Badenhout. So I know I saw Cindy. So Cindy, come on up. Cindy has been teaching pronouns and dangling participles and good writing at Eli, and the best books in the world at Eli Terry Junior Middle School. She is absolutely a gem of a person. She's an extraordinary teacher, remarkably caring about the kids, and she has been part of our district for over 31 years. So we thank Cindy Badenhout for her 31 years. And if you could stay, we want you to stay up here. Yeah, we don't need to make this a quad workout. So the next gentleman is, or the next person is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Joe Dennis. Where is Joe? I know I saw Joe. Come on up, Joe. Joe and I talk sometimes at 4 in the morning when we're trying to decide if we're going to have school or not school. And I kid around that Joe can pretty much fix anything if you give him enough duct tape. He will put it back together. He will make sure it works. I've had the opportunity to work with him pretty closely over the past few years, and he is just an absolute rock. You know, you can count on Joe for anything, anytime. I could text him at 3:30 in the morning and say, Joe, how's the weather over at Plymouth Center? He's like, it's snowing, but I think we're going to be okay. And he's been our facilities director of facilities for the past 20 years, and we love him just like we love Cindy, and we're going to miss him an awful lot, but we're wishing him nothing but health and happiness as he retires and goes off into the sunset. And I'm sure it's, I actually am at a disadvantage because I've only been here 2.5 years. I imagine the stories that can be told about these people, and you can leave that for their retirement parties. Right? But they've given so many years of their life, so I know I'm not doing it justice, but I'm doing the best I can. Our next person is Karen DiTomaso. So I've seen Karen here too. There's definitely a theme here because Karen is also an unbelievably caring person. When I asked some of her colleagues about her, they just say so many positive things about Karen, about how hard she works for the kids and how much she wants them to be successful. And she'll just do absolutely anything in her power to help a child be successful. And if I can read my handwriting correctly, she's been here for the past 35 years working with our students. So congratulations and thank you. Now, I hope he doesn't mind saying, but this gentleman has been working in our district as long as I've been breathing on this planet. So I'd like to welcome up Lou Zabuska. Lou lives and breathes art. I've walked into his classroom a number of times since I've been here, and the kids are just hard at work, and he's teaching them about good technique, but also appreciating what art has to do, to add value to our lives. And like I said, he's been here, so I'm telling you my age, he's been working here for 45 years. Seems like yesterday. To love teaching that much and to still look that good after 45 years working with middle school students. As much as I love middle school students, they still are going through that challenging time, and you parents know what I'm talking about. But we also thank Lou for his 45 years. So we had other retirees, like I said, but we appreciate all of what our retirees have done over their long, illustrious careers for us. And again, we just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done. And if we could just give them one last round of applause. And then you're going to call a recess. Yeah, so when you do the recess, you can do that.
All right. I need a motion. No,
Nope.
stay right here. Have a motion to go into recess. So, Roxanne, Chris, all in favor? Any opposed? Good. Now we're doing.
Go back in a session without
I'd like to resume the regular session at 7:37.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to the superintendent's update.
All right, so updating everybody about what's going on in Plymouth Public Schools. First of all, I think some kudos go out to our folks at Eli Terry Junior Middle School. I had let the board know, but as folks know, there's something called the Chet Fund for kids, and it's for parents to put money into tax-free, but they really push the idea of personal finance for kids to learn about how to make sure they are thinking about their own finances. So Chet does like a competition every year, and it's happy for me to say that Eli Terry was actually the top performer in the Chet Award Program this year in Litchfield County. So the personal finance work that's being done in this district by our teachers and staff and working with the kids is paying off. And they're getting involved, and they're learning about personal finance in the middle school, and they're learning about personal finance at the high school, because the most important equation you all can learn is the exponential function, okay? Compound growth is the most powerful function in my mind. So learn it and then take advantage of it, because that's how you will make your money work for you. I also want to point out another really positive thing is our RU reps. You know, the whole idea of the RU reps was that they decided to come together at the high school and say, we want to know more about this whole budget piece. And they were actively seeking information from anybody they could get. They spoke to the mayor, they requested meetings with me, they requested meetings with anybody they can ask meetings with and hold meetings with so they can learn more about the budget. And then they went through the painstaking process that it is to get a budget passed through the multiple referendums, the multiple long meetings, evening meetings that go on. And these kids were there every meeting. And so we are pushing, you guys are pushing as a board, civic mindedness. You have a 25-hour requirement for getting hours of service, but these guys put in probably 50, 60 hours just of coming to meetings and doing that. But I think the board's push on civic mindedness through the classroom and through the programs we offer is a big part of this, but these kids really just took it upon themselves to run with it. And we have a lot of seniors who are leaving us. And I think it's another big piece that was really exciting for me. You have seniors who really have no necessary vested interest in the budget because they're going on to their own things next year. And they were spending all those hours speaking. So I think that's just, you know, I think that's top notch, and I think that's something that the board should be proud of because you are instilling that in them. Their parents are too, and the community is as well, but the board has some responsibility in that. I just want to thank the RU reps for working hard that way. I also wanted to highlight another really good thing. I didn't know this was even going on, but our STEM class at Eli Terry Junior Middle School, where we've shown you some presentation. They did a presentation where they showed you the robotics and the programming, but they were also involved in developing websites. Jerry Milne from the Locke Museum reached out to Margot Parenti, the teacher of the class, and said, hey, we're putting this new adventure game into the Locke Museum. Can you help us develop a website? And they did. They spent class time developing the skill of developing a website in this new STEM class we have, and Jerry was just so happy with the result. And I shared with you guys the link to that particular website. That's kudos to Miss Parenti for spending all that time because she was going above and beyond too, trying to help the kids. But I think those are some things that are going on that are fantastic. And of course, a really good thing for our kids is graduation is right around the corner. So our 5th graders, 8th graders, and especially our seniors are going to be looking forward to their next transition. And graduation will be Wednesday, June 21st at 7. And I believe you all have an invitation at your seats. So we thank the high school for making sure that you had that invitation. So that's my update. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, well, ladies, this is your time. So first of all, do we have a report? Sort of. Yeah. Sort of? Okay, you can go ahead because I have something for you.
Well, as you may or may not know, the end of the year is approaching rapidly. Next week.
Only a week, Nora.
So next week is graduation. Before I just say like a little bit about that, finals are happening this week. All the other students are, they're definitely excited to get the finals over with, but they're definitely more excited to start their next year at Taylorville High School. So yeah, that's the general atmosphere for the students right now. And then graduation, of course, is next week. It's Wednesday, June 21st. Most of the seniors are excited, mainly nervous, but also very excited to graduate, get their diploma, and move on to the next stage in their lives. And also, just additionally, all of the board members are welcome to attend graduation, as long as there's no crying involved.
I can't promise. I told you I'm good. I'm just telling you.
I'm just kidding. Come and cry all you want, but you're invited. Thank you. And yeah, so just thank you for all that you've provided us for. We love coming and giving reports, and we love to get to know you guys over this past year, 2 years. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share what is going on in the high school and caring about us as students. And thank you for giving us cake and making us feel welcome. And we will definitely be back during our breaks next year for cake.
Well, you have to just tell us when and we're good to go.
Thank you.
I also want to say thank you. At first, I was really nervous to do any of this because I've never been to one of these and I didn't know like what to expect. But it turned out to actually be pretty cool. Cake helped. But I'm excited to come back next year with our new officers.
Would you like to announce who they're going to be?
Yeah. Well, I'll be president next year. Brianna Hanlon will be vice president, and Diana Ironimo will be secretary and treasurer.
And she is, yes, related.
My cousin.
So, thank you, ladies, so much. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. You did a fantastic job this year. My expectations, you gave them to me because I had a little bit higher than other times. So thank you. You gave me what I wanted from you. So I'm very proud. We're going to miss you tremendously. Yes, I will cry, just saying right now. But I didn't know if anybody of the other board members wanted to say anything to you because I'm going to present. So please feel free to go ahead and talk to the ladies while I give them their gifts. These are from the board.
Do you need help, or are you good?
I'm good. This is the fun part. Because you're seniors.
Thank you.
These are from me. You're a sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm coming this way.
Okay.
Thank you, sweetheart. You did a great job. Thank you for your team. Stop. I'm not going to cry yet. Hold me.
Okay.
Anything you guys would like to say to the girls? That's right now. All right. I would like to welcome Amy, Brianna, and Diana starting in September. I'm very excited. I know all three of those girls, so it's wonderful. I've watched all of them grow up, so I'm very happy that they're going to be here for us. Okay, next thing.
Next thing is, we wanted to share with you quickly a presentation about our professional development plans for next year. This is, I think it's important to always make sure you're prepared for what you're going to teach your teachers the next year, and so the district data team worked long and hard on kind of the overall shell of what types of things we wanted to be and needed to be working on next year. And then we worked that hard in advance so we could give it to the principals to work with their school improvement teams to get the more specific training. So we work with the district to get some overall work that we need to do from a district perspective, and then the schools go a little deeper into their more specific needs. So we're asking Ms. Parsons just to present to you our professional development plan next year so you have an idea of what we plan on working with our teachers on. Ms. Parsons?
Sure. Thank you. So yes, I'm here to talk about our professional development plan for next year and sort of how we got here. So the first step was working with the district data team to review all of the survey data from the year. So at the end of each PD session, we send out a survey gauging the relevance, organization, and interaction with the presentation. We also did a comprehensive end-of-year survey asking teachers what formats work best for them, what time blocks work best for them, and what they really would like to see next year. So we started with that, and we talked about 3 times with the district data team. We kept coming back to the calendar and created the framework around what chunks of time we had and how long, and we sort of broke it up. After that, we took it out to administrative council, and the administrative team helped shape the district time, how we're going to spend the time we have together as a district. And then they also took it back to their schools, to their school data teams and school improvement teams to talk about how they would use the building time. So when we talk about professional development, there's several different sort of formats that we have. All of the schools have team meetings, and they each are structured a little bit differently, whether it's a department meeting at the high school, or it's a grade level kindergarten team at the elementary school, or all the specials teachers at one elementary school meeting together. So there's those embedded times for professional development that are team meetings, and those are sort of building based. They may be talking about things that we're working on, both at the district level, curriculum level, and in the buildings down to the student level. We also have our coaches in the buildings, and they do what's called job embedded PD. They're actually in the classrooms co-teaching and working with the teachers and helping them implement best instructional practices right there on the spot. And then with our calendar, we have full day professional developments, and then we have early release. So what we planned with this professional development calendar were those full day and the early release times. And we sort of identified and color coded with all the times that we have what would be spent on district initiatives, what would be spent on curricular initiatives, what would be spent on building-based initiatives, and then we're implementing something that's newer or sort of a renewed focus on what's called K-12 vertical teams. So during the district time, we'll be talking about things like social emotional learning. That's really something we've identified at many levels this year that we need to focus on as a district next year. So for instance, when we come back for convocation, when we have those initial days, we'll be talking about social emotional learning. We'll also be talking about technology things like Atlas, the curriculum platform, or Power School and Power Gradebook. And then there's one additional piece that is new this year. We're having what's called choice sessions. So teachers within the district will be asked to submit proposals to have 1-hour sessions that other teachers can come to. So that's a great way if we've sent teachers out to workshops or if we've identified a best practice in their classroom, we're asking them to come back and share with their peers. And it's getting different faces in front, and it's giving people a chance to have leadership experiences within the district, but also share what we have internally. So the more to come on that, and there will be strands or topics that teachers will be asked to link their proposals to. So more about social emotional learning, differentiation, best technology in classrooms, so there'll be a few choices there. The curriculum and instruction times are both at the grade level and at the department level. And during those times, we'll be working on things like developing and implementing curriculum, best instructional practices, and where there's new standards. Like with science, we'll be talking a lot about the NGSS next year. At the building level, the building principals and their teams are working to come up with those topics. Some of the things that will be there are team and department work, assessment practices, and working on that social emotional learning at the building level. And lastly, the K-12 vertical teams, we'll be looking at our curriculum from the kindergarten level to the 12th grade, or pre-K, where applicable, up to the 12th grade level. So for example, in math, we'll have an elementary school teacher from each of the grade levels, some of our coaches, our middle school teachers and coaches, and our high school teacher and department heads will be working together to talk about things like algebraic reasoning. What does it look like in kindergarten? How are we getting kids ready for 12th grade? And how are we supporting kids who need the help as they move forward? So that's exciting for us, and it's a good way to get new faces together and share resources and make sure that we're creating continuous pathways for our kids as they move through the school system. So what does this look like in action? So our full days, we're back 2 days before school starts, August 28th and 29th. We'll start with convocation, and then we'll go back to buildings, kick off with staff meetings and have some collaboration time. And on the 29th, we'll start with some district learning, which is a little bit different than this year. We'll have all the teachers together, probably here at the high school, to all work together through some workshops as opposed to separating out to our schools right away. We'll work on curriculum instruction, and we also have our paraprofessionals on that day, and they'll be doing some of their mandatory trainings that they have to do, like CPR, CPI, all of those things that help support them in their roles. And then we come back. These are 2 days that are set by the regional calendar and were approved in our calendar, October 6th and then November 7th, which is election day. On October 6th, we'll do curriculum instruction, building, and vertical teams. A nice piece of the regional calendar is that they have Education at Advance, formerly Education Connection, is hosting and helping to organize some regional ed camps. So for our teachers who don't have a huge team to collaborate internally, like our world language department, they're having ed camps where one school will host and teachers from all over the area will come together and spend the day together sharing best practices. So last year they tried that with arts, and this year they're trying it with arts and music and PE and world language So they're expanding that based on some of the feedback we've given them. November 7th is when we'll try out those choice sessions, and those should be great. I can't wait to report back to you on those, and we'll have some more vertical team time. All of our full days are front-loaded at the beginning of the year based on that regional calendar. And then we have 3 early release days toward, that take us through to the end of the year. We had 2 this year, the 3 will be new for next year. So you can see how we'll finish up here with a curriculum and instruction day, a building day, and then we'll try to come back and wrap up the district kickoff that we had at the beginning of the year. When we have our early release days, because of scheduling, there's only about an hour where we can get everybody from the district back together. So we're going to either try to get everyone back together, or we'll sort of do the district wrap up in 2 pieces, like a middle and high school, and then an elementary school piece. Any questions? We're excited for some of the new changes, and it really came organically from what the teachers were asking for. So we tried to make that best reflect on paper.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. You're welcome.
Nope.
All right, public comment, 3 minutes. Going once. Going twice. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Karen, Roxanne, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. New business, which is the series 4000s. Everybody got their big packet, right? Did you all read it?
Super did it.
Yes, actually, I did.
We know you
It
did.
was, yeah. Okay, you want to take it? You want to do it? Or you want
Well, it's just informational.
Oh,
So we'll be voting on the 4000 series at our next meeting. So if everybody can make sure that you take a chance, we can go through for our second read. But if anybody has questions this time around, we're open to questions on the policy committee. Anybody? Anybody?
no highlights at all?
No questions?
All right.
If you have questions before the next meeting,
How long
feel
did it
free.
take you to go through that?
I think that was 3 meetings, wasn't it? Or was it 4?
Yeah, it's probably, I think that was 3 meetings, so maybe 9 hours?
9 hours roughly.
It was impressive.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was riveting reading.
Wait till you see the next one.
Yeah. Wait till
Didn't
you
say
see
that.
the, wait till you see the 5,000s.
At first I thought it was
There's more?
the packet, and I opened it up and I said to myself, I'm like, this is all one series? There's nothing,
Just one
no
series.
other minutes, agendas, anything
And what
like
you
that?
guys don't see is that when we get ours, it's even bigger because we have optional things to consider, potential new policies. Some stuff starts out in there and we weed it out. So yeah, it was a lot bigger to start with.
The reason I'm not on policy.
Feel free to join us at any of our meetings.
There's probably a reason why it hasn't been done in 20 years.
Yeah, nobody wanted to.
Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on.
So with the school lunch, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Pat.
Sure. So we've got 2 items on the new business related to the school lunch program. The first one is an authorization to participate in the school lunch program for the 2017-18 year. That's something that needs to be done every year because we do commit to certain things that we're going to do if we like to participate in the school lunch program. The second one relates to the cost of school lunches and school breakfast for next year. It's my recommendation that we take no action on the lunch prices. However, coming out of the triennial audit and our discussions with the state, they had recommended, and I would have to agree based on my review with Holly, that we increase the price of the breakfast at the middle and the high school from $1.55 to $2. When we started looking at the actual components of what we serve at the middle and high school, the $1.55 really doesn't cover enough of our food and overhead costs, but the $2 kind of pushes us in that direction. So I recommend that we kind of do that as 2 separate votes, one to participate and one on the change in the prices. And by doing it now, it gives us the ability to communicate out to parents before the school year begins.
Wait. Just for our notes, you would, with the elementary.
I
there
take that
was-
back. Elementary was going $1.55 to $1.60. Sorry about that. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to participate in the National School Lunch Program for the 2017-2018
Tony,
school year.
Karen, Tony, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. Entertain a motion to increase the cost of the school lunches, not to increase the cost of the school lunches.
So moved.
Second.
Chris, any questions or comments?
Actually, this says the lunch
I don't think we
portion
need a
is
motion for
informational.
that. I think we just need the motion.
Lunch is
for this.
information, it's just on the breakfast. I
Yeah,
I'm
think.
sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize.
I'd like to make a motion to approve
Thank
the
you.
increase in the cost of the school breakfast program in order to cover the expenses of the program and to comply with federal breakfast and lunch guidelines.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you.
Yep. So the next one is something you guys do every year, given that this is our last official board meeting of the school year. We still need to keep hiring people over the summer, so this is a motion that I would, suggest that you approve in terms of giving me the authorization to hire personnel, except administrators, during the months of July and August, in conjunction with the Personnel Subcommittee Chair. So I'd like to entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Melissa? Sorry. Michelle, any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
The interesting thing about that is in the 4,000 series, there's actually a policy in there that's being recommended that says that the superintendent has the ability to hire all staff under the rank of assistant principal. So that particular motion wouldn't be necessary in the future. So just something to take note of in the 4,000 series. But for this year, it's needed because the new 4,000s have not yet been passed.
All right.
And the next thing is end of the year transfer of funds, correct?
Budget, right?
Oh, the budget, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted to go over that now.
That's all. It's just that.
No, I actually had a different form of our agenda.
It's all right. Sure. you-
I actually.
It's okay, we really don't want to talk about
Right,
that.
I know. There we go.
We talk about it enough.
The budget 2017, 2018.
Sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So as Mr. Penn is passing out this document, and I know you're starting to read, so just kind of recap for everybody, you folks in our audience, you in February adopted a budget of $542,000, $542,289 to be precise, or a 2.27% increase, and that was back in February. We've talked about the host of meetings that occurred, and in the end, the Board of Education was given an increase of $300,000. So therefore, we need to find $242,000 worth of reductions to our budget. And the document that we've put in front of you tonight actually represents close to $300,000 of potential cuts. So I want to make sure you're clear on that. We need to find about 242, but we're giving you about 20% more than you would need to cut, so you have some options. These are possible cuts. You know, Ms. Johnson has mentioned other times that you can bring up other topics as well in terms of cuts. So this doesn't limit you. But I will tell you that these cuts are coming from the administration, from the entire administrative council in terms of speaking about these potential cuts for months. We could tell back a couple of months ago that we weren't likely to get the full 542,000, so we started having discussions about what would we potentially cut. And as part of that, which is good news, because we were a little concerned, we started looking at other creative ways to maybe save money without any reductions in service or situations with kids. So we started working with a few of our groups. They're actually our non-bargaining groups. And we were able to work with them in such a way that they are all now have agreed to go on to the high deductible health plan starting next year. where originally they weren't slated to be there for next year. And you'll see on the list that Mr. Penn passed out, that's a savings of $100,000. So of that $242,000, $100,000 of that has been already satisfied. That's not something that you can choose or not choose to cut at this point. That's kind of coming off your bottom line. The other thing that kind of comes immediately off your bottom line is that the town decided that the SRO was going to be paid for out of the town side. We had originally put that in our $542,000 budget. So that also can come right off of your bottom line. The only other two things I'm going to mention, and Mr. Penn's going to talk about this as well, other pieces, but you have two items at the top that actually show negatives. So when we originally put the budget together, as you can imagine, when you put a budget together in October, that things may not work out perfectly. So we had some negative adjustment in our VOAG and magnet tuition of the tune of $20,000. And we want you to consider perhaps putting the facility study back in to the budget at a cost of $25,000. That is a choice, but we put that in as negative 25 because it would cost us more. So that's all factored in. So, Mr. Penn, anything else you want to add before the board begins discussion?
Yeah, so looking at that 294,022, we're trying to solve for, as Dr. Semmel said, a real number of 242,289. So in effect, we've got to take 51,733 off this list somewhere. If we feel very comfortable with the 100,000 for the moving everybody to the HDHP that wasn't already there, and the SRO, the number that we're looking for is 127,296. Now, what I would tell you is you'll see a number of items that are on here related to Mr. Trudeau's area that we've worked on with him within the scope of his current budget. That's why we feel we have some comfort taking it off next year. There are a couple of other items. You'll notice that the social studies teachers at THS, we've talked a little bit about curriculum development, some changes in staff with respect to the French program, the part-time facility supervisor, moving that down to a 20-hour-a-week position, moving an additional parent to the Medicaid grant. Our Medicaid participation rate and our reimbursement rate continues to climb. So I feel fairly comfortable that we can go from 3 to 4 within the scope of the next year. We've talked about as a team potentially reducing some of the specials at PCS as related to enrollment. We had visitor management software in there at $7,700. We've been talking about adding an additional part-time custodian in the district. It's a net save of about, a net cost of about $16,000, and then potentially eliminating one of the secretaries at Eli Terry. So that's everything on the list. But as I said earlier, we're trying to solve for, if we sort of accept the HDHP and the SRO, if we're trying to come up with a little over 127,000. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. Any questions? Comments?
Yeah.
Mike?
First, what is an emergency backup switch?
If you have a switch that fails that runs your network, it's an emergency to have basically so that you can get back up and running fairly quickly.
This doesn't have anything to do with security?
No, it does not. It's your network, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhat security, though, in terms of, because it runs our network and some of our security runs off of that. But it's all internet is what the switch is.
So if there's an emergency, and we don't have the switch, how will that affect our security in the schools?
Well, what the theory is that you'd have one on the shelf to go
Right.
basically swap it in and swap it out. But what I think I'm kind of saying is Rich has got some capacity within his current year budget to take care of the switch this year and have one on the shelf as opposed to putting it into next year's budget.
Okay. Visitor management software, is that also security?
Yeah, that's the Raptor system that I think some of you saw demonstrated at some point. It's a system that has the ability to scan somebody's driver ID, tap out to the sex offender registry database, and basically control visitors within the building. It's 7,700 in the first year, and I believe it drops to about 5,000 per year after that in terms of ongoing fees.
Do we currently have this?
We do not.
So, okay, we're not cutting that, we're just not.
We would not have it,
We're
but it's
not
not really
funding
a
it.
cut. Right,
Okay.
exactly.
And I'm a little confused on the SRO. Are we or are we not getting an SRO?
We had an SRO in our budget, but the town put it into theirs as well, so it's duplicative having it in our budget.
So we are getting an SRO.
That's our understanding.
That's our understanding.
We're just
You
not
just don't
paying
have to
for
pay
it.
for it.
We don't
We don't have to
Okay.
pay for it.
Right.
Anything else?
I got one.
I figured, I saw you moving over there.
So, if I'm doing the math right,
Yep.
if you look at all of the instances where there's a reduction in staff that are currently employed, whether a reduction of hours or elimination of a position,
Okay.
that total comes to $46,196, which if you subtract that from the total of $294.22, gets you roughly $247. So essentially by taking out all the cuts that would affect personnel directly, you get to where you need to get to.
So you're saying if you take,
If you, specifically if you took out the reduction in part-time facility supervisor,
yep,
the reduction in PE teacher,
yep,
reduction in music teacher, and the elimination of one secretary, Eli Terry,
mhm.
that gets you $46,196. That you would put back in, and you'd still
So in other
be,
words, what you're saying is it's fairly close to the number we're chasing.
yeah.
Okay.
I see where you're going with that. I like
Yeah.
that, how you're
Yeah,
thinking.
I do too.
So, I mean, all the other things that are on here are,
Things,
actually, wait, hang on.
yeah.
Now, the elimination of the social studies teacher at THS, is that a current position?
It is,
So somebody's in there?
yep.
Okay. So that kind of throws a wrench in what I was trying to do.
But we've already run the schedule at Terryville High School with the reduced social studies teacher, without that additional section, teacher.
Yep.
And the class sizes are very appropriate.
Okay.
They run from actually 9 to 27.
Okay.
Most, and 27 is out of the norm. So,
And I got one other one. So the elimination of school-ed Chromebooks, that would take and change it from a one-to-one Chromebook policy to a
No.
one.
nope.
Now, this is actually being able to drill down some of the Chromebooks into the lower grades.
Okay.
And again, it's one of those items I think Rich has got some capacity to cover out of this year's budget as opposed to take forward into the next one.
Okay.
Does not affect at all our one-to-one policy.
Okay. That's what I got.
Jerry?
I just have a question. How many psychologists do we have in the school system?
4,
One in each building.
one of these programs.
Okay, and their caseload, how is their caseload?
Hard. It's gonna vary, but.
It varies simply because of the way they need to be used in different buildings. But with the number of students, I mean, I had one staff member who was testing over 30 students this year, and that, it's not like you just meet with them for a half hour. It's a long testing process. They provide one-to-one counseling, small group counseling. They run interference when there's something going on. They support staff in reporting to DCF, et cetera. It's hard to say. I mean, I can tell you special ed teachers have X number of students sitting in front of them, but for psychologists, their roles are so varied that it's a little bit harder.
Their caseload is basically every student in the school.
Yeah, they
No-
do
no
see,
joke.
they do
No,
see
No,
themselves that way.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Some of them also run PPTs.
They were, yeah.
no, I understand. I'm just
Try to get
it's
information.
just a question.
Yep.
Just
No,
trying
I think it's a good
to-
question. Yeah.
so that if there's a question that's asked of me when I'm on the outside, and we always get questions about special ed, and then when people start questioning about psychologists, you know, and the things that I usually get is, are we becoming a social service?
Yeah, they're not,
type of-
it's not like a psychologist that you might see in like a doctor's office
Right.
where they're a specific patient. Like, teachers can send kids to the psychologist who you wouldn't have ever even known would have needed that service.
And it's not
It's
all
just-
about
They're-
special ed when it
yeah.
comes to the
Oh,
psychologist.
no, it's
No,
not.
I understand
No, it's
that,
not
but
at all.
it's the
But I'm just
perception.
saying, when
but
you,
it's-
so after that, you can say it's not all about our special ed class. All children can use that.
But the perception from
But
the
that's where you
outside.
come in to change that
Right,
perception.
well, it's very hard, so.
Can we go back to your numbers for a second? Because I want to make sure I'm in sync with what you said.
Okay.
Social studies at 40.
I left that one out by
You
accident.
left that one out, okay.
Yep.
Do you want it in on your list or not off your list?
For the one that I picked out, I had the 3 reductions, and then the last item, the eliminate one secretary, Eli Terry.
Okay.
That's
so-
where I got that 46,196.
One
So
of the,
did you,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm in sync with them.
Yep.
I had the French position for 10, right?
Actually, you know what? I didn't have that one in there either.
Okay.
and I will say with that French position, there's only enough French sections for a .6. We're not the class sizes will not be bad. They will not be poor at all. Going to .6 is my recommendation. You almost will be wasting money if you keep that as a 1. You will be wasting money if you keep that as a 1.0. You really do need to reduce down to a .6 in French unless you plan on finding additional French students.
Is
somewhere.
that a position that whoever has that position would be able to do something else to then become a full-time?
No,
So potentially, we could lose a teacher.
potentially.
They could choose to leave because
Yeah.
they don't want to teach
Yeah.
.6.
Which is why the unemployment doesn't really seem to tie to the salary number that's reflected there.
Right.
We would have, right now, she has a total of 41 students for next year. So it's not nearly full-time kind of numbers.
Mhm.
So the same thing with the social studies, when Mr. Holtz ran his schedule, you can run the schedule with the lesser social studies teacher.
I kind of agree with Chris in that I would rather see things eliminated than positions eliminated. So if you could keep that in mind as we're kind of making our final cuts, that to me would be the most important thing. Just my 2 cents.
Jerry?
My concern is that in all the years that I've been on the Board of Ed is we eliminate staff. It seems that that's an appropriate way to get to the final numbers that we need. My biggest concern is some of the staff that we eliminate could be potentially individuals that live in this town that pay taxes. And it's really, in my own personal opinion, is when I look at eliminating staff, I'm looking at it as I'm taking a person that's being employed by us and laying them off. And a lot of times I don't agree with that. So in all honesty, I really would like to see some other aspects of decreasing the part of the budget, because even looking at French, so if the French teacher at this point in time decides that they are not going to not be a full-time person here and they're basically going to be part-time, and they decide to leave, what is the aspects of you getting another French teacher to come in here and
At .6.
at .6? And also, if you can't get anybody, then those 41 students that are trying to take French are going to have to take another language. And if, let's say, for instance, they were, what do we have, 3 levels of French here? Or do we have 4?
4.
Okay. So the individual that's trying to get into French 4 may not be able to take French 4. The individuals that all of a sudden have French 1 and this teacher decides to leave, now they don't have a French teacher, they may have to go into Spanish. That the other language that we have is just Spanish? Okay. I know from experience with my son who went to Oliver Wolcott, who did not have any languages and had to go to Central Connecticut, and they told him he had to take 2 years of a language because he didn't have language, and he took French his first year and he flunked. So then he decided to take Spanish because he got lucky when he was at Eli Terry, and he had Spanish in the 8th grade, but unfortunately, in his second semester of, he flunked. So we have to understand that you need a language in order to go to college. If you don't have a base language of 2 years minimum, you have to take it in college. And when you take it in college, it's not like 180 days in a school year. It turns out to be about 14 weeks of maybe 2 or 3 classes a week, and it gets crammed down your throat. And I know from my son how frustrated he was when he took French and couldn't understand it, and took Spanish, and he did understand it, but still couldn't pass the class. So I think we're doing a disservice to the students in this high school in order to go from a full-time French teacher to a part-time French teacher.
But they're not signed up for any more courses. Like, I would love to offer more French, but they're not signed up for it. So, I mean, in terms of just running an efficient system, I will have a teacher, I'm gonna have to cut French 2 that might have 15 kids in it down to 2 classes of 7 to give her a 5 section, to give her 5 sections and cut it.
I see what you're saying, but are you not concerned at all that we may not find a person who wants to teach .6 French?
That is a concern.
So,
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, we all know that just because they teach French doesn't mean they couldn't also do something else in the school. Right?
Yep. We
To fill up that time.
We could find some way of.
That's just, I mean, it's been done before.
Yep.
Tutoring, something.
Marty, what do we have for enrollment in Spanish?
It's the Spanish numbers? Like just a total number?
Yeah, I mean, just across all sections.
I don't know if you know that total off your head, the Spanish number?
There's 10 full sections plus 3.
How many?
There's 10 full sections, right? So each of the 2
They're
classes.
like 26, 27 in those sections, and I'm really hoping that we still get those 26 that's hanging in balance.
That's a lot of kids.
It's not ideal for everyone.
With the issue with French, quite frankly, is far fewer students are taking French. In many districts, it's dying as a language. It's not being taken. So in some cases, it's dying a slow death. And it's sad because there's a number of French families in Plymouth, and they would love, I'm sure, to see it continue. But the number of kids that are signing up for it is getting lower. So when we were looking for cuts, when Mr. Holtz can only fill 3 sections, it's a logical choice to say that. But there is a concern.
Right. How would it affect our students currently if we were unable to find a .6 French teacher and therefore we're not able to offer it at all?
You have to do it online, right? Yeah.
Much like we did a couple
Just
years
like
ago with
Spanish 4, yeah.
And which did not work out well, from what I understand.
It would be difficult, especially if you're in the pipeline.
Right.
And what I mean by that
That's
is
what I'm worried about,
you're
is the
going
kids
into
are already
French 3.
taking it.
If you're going into French 3,
I mean, it's one thing if we decide we want to phase it out. That's one thing, but we can't just, I mean, it's just not fair to just cut it off,
Right,
And
I
that's
wouldn't
my
want to-
fear.
right.
My fear is that we're going to come back here in August and it's going to be on the list of hires, a
Right, that are
.6
still open.
French teacher.
Yep.
Yeah. That's my fear.
I could never promise you that we could find a .6 French teacher. It was hard to find a full French teacher.
Right.
And I couldn't promise you that she wouldn't take another full-time position in some other place over the summer.
Right,
Just
exactly.
because she's moved or whatever the case
Especially if
may
it's
be,
that hard to
so.
find one in the first place, then obviously
Right,
the
so
opportunities would be more on her side,
You
his
could-
or her side.
you could be in the same position.
Yeah. Just something to think about.
Yeah, I just want to make
So-
sure you were clear on how many sections we
Yeah.
can offer.
I know.
So just to throw the numbers out there you were just talking about, if we were to take the Secretary at Eli Terry off the list, and we took off the 2 specials teacher at Plymouth Center off the list, and we took the French teacher off the list, you'd be at $48,000. And I would round off the difference between the HDHP number and make it, instead of 100,000, I make it 96, whatever it needs to be to balance out the number.
can I make a motion for that?
Can we go over it one more time? before
Sure.
we make a motion?
Yeah.
Are we doing?
Just so I have it.
Okay. Well, it's your motion, but I can tell you what the numbers are.
Please do.
If we were to take off the list, the secretary to Eli Terry for $24,950, and we took off the 2 specials position at PCS at $65.25 each.
Keeping them full?
Yes,
Right,
right.
okay.
Taking them off the cut list, that's what I'm
Right, got
referring
it.
to. And then took off the cut list, the French teacher at Terryville High School for 10. That gets us to $48,000.
All right, so is there
So we're
still a
trying,
position?
we're trying
Okay,
to
so
get
there's
to
still-
51,733. So I would just decrease that HDHP number from 100,000 to 96 and change to get us to the number we're trying to solve for.
But then that still means that you're reducing the part-time facility supervisor to 20 hours a week, right?
That person's very close to retiring, and I think he'd be okay with that. I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
But it is, we are still eliminating one position at the very top there, the
The social studies,
major.
correct. That's right.
That person does have a place to go in the district?
Okay.
Okay,
Which
so
is why there's
good
no
to know.
unemployment with that.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes it better.
That's what I was
Yeah.
kind of panicking over.
Yeah. And I'll just point out, the reason we went at PCS to .8 is because both of those are resignations or retirements this year. So we had the opportunity, in terms of hiring new staff, we believe that .8 is appropriate. But if we went with, I will say if Ms. Collins was here, she doesn't love the .8, just to speak for her. But we think we can make Plymouth Center work, given the reductions in overall school population to those .8s. So that's why we did those. If we hire at 1.0, it's going to be harder to then go to a
To go
.8
down to
later.
0.8.
I'm just,
I understand that, but I think I'm not going to speak for her at all, because I would never do that. But if she's thinking anywhere near how I'm thinking, is you're going to get, if you're hiring at less than a full-time position, you're not going to get the cream of the crop. You're going to get the people who tried to get a full-time position and then were not able to. That's how I see it.
And then their basic thing
They may
is
stay, they may not.
they're looking for the opportunity down
Yes.
the road. So
Right.
they could
They
all of a
won't
sudden,
stay.
3 months into their tenure, find that full-time position.
And have
then
no loyalty.
They give you they have no loyalty, they give you a 30-day notice per contract, and then you're in the same boat again, trying to hire that .8.
I'm less, that it's less upsetting to me, the hiring of new people at .8. That's less upsetting to me than the French
Reducing
teacher
current.
and the secretary position, I think, is that. That's just how I see it. Other people may see it differently. I would love to hear.
How many secretaries do we have at the middle school, do we know?
2.
And we have a home physical history teacher.
We do, at the middle school.
Anything else?
Yeah, Phil, I'm not clear on, you were talking about changing the 100,000 to 98,
90, I just wrote it down somewhere, 96,267.
but that 100,000, that's a savings.
Correct.
So if you subtracted that off of there, your total at the bottom,
No, not subtracted. Change the number from 100,000 to 96,267.
To make it the exact number we
Make
need.
it
To get to the exact number you're trying to solve for tonight.
Because keep in mind, in a $24 million budget, $4,000 is a very, very minuscule amount.
I'm just trying to understand how the math
Yeah.
works.
Right now, your total on that list is $294,000.
Right.
You got to
Potential.
take off 51,733 off that list.
Yes.
If you take off the secretary, you take off the 2 .8s at PCS, you take off the French teacher, and you make it 96,267 instead of 100,000, you get to exactly the number you're looking for.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a cushion you're adding.
Correct.
Okay.
The 100,000 is probably just kind of an estimate anyway,
Right.
right? It can't possibly
It's a
be an
rounded
exact
number
number.
versus
Right.
what we projected.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to make a motion?
Well, the concern I have too with this whole thing is looking at, initially we had someone from Ed Connect, who was the behavioral specialist that we were contracted for, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so now.
Well, was it through Ed Connect? I don't-
The BCBA?
You talking about the BCBA position?
Yeah, the behavioral
Yeah.
specialist
Yeah.
analysis.
No, we contract through another agency, but yes, we
Yeah, outside
contract.
agency, yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna bring that person on staff and add that as a permanent staff member,
Yep.
okay?
Remember, when we went through the budget process, that's actually had a savings to the
Yes.
district.
Yes, I understand that, okay? It's the perception that from the outside looking at it, where you're gonna cut some positions, but you're gonna add a position. And I understand this cost savings, but it's perception that's out there in the audience that when they look at it, is that you're gonna get rid of a social studies teacher at the high school, but yet you're gonna add a position in, and it doesn't make sense to them, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, it won't make sense to them if their kids show up to high school social studies class and there's 30 or 40 kids in the class.
No.
Then they'll have a problem with it.
Right.
But if they go to high school social studies class and the class is a reasonable size, no one's going to care.
Right. No, I
Believe me, they're not.
Karen, I just understand it. It's just
Yeah.
that looking at it from the outside, they don't, not saying they don't understand the numbers, they just look at it like, well, you're gonna get rid of this staff or a person here, a teacher, but yet you're gonna bring in a position.
I understand
and
what you're
that,
saying.
you know, that
I
we
get it.
need, yes, and we need it, but they don't get the comprehension part of it.
Again, that's your job to help them figure it
Right.
out.
Right. Because the alternative is to keep a teacher you don't need and not hire a behavior specialist that you do need. And that's not a good alternative.
No,
Right,
I
so-
understand that.
Right, so we have to make the decisions in the best interest of our kids in the system, and that's why we're employed to do that and try to make good recommendations to you guys to make the best informed decisions you possibly can. And like Karen's saying, then you go out and tell your folks if they have a question, well, here's why the board decided to go in this direction.
And that position will save the district money, because
Yep.
there are students that would potentially need to be placed out of district if they are not receiving the support that the BCBA will be able to provide.
Yep.
And contracted services tend to always be far more expensive
Oh,
than
absolutely.
our own services.
You get 51,733.
Yep.
Good. Just making sure.
Anything else?
I'd like to make a motion to make the changes as we outlined, Mr. Penn outlined for us, because I can't really put this into words correctly, but to take off of the list that we have in front of us, the elimination of a full-time French teacher to part-time, take off the list the reduction of the PE and music teacher at PCS, and take off the list the elimination of a secretary at Eli Terry Middle School.
And to change the anticipated savings from moving to the HDHP to 96,267.
What he said.
Second that.
Okay, Karen, Roxanne, any other questions or concerns or comments about this before we take the vote?
French teacher.
Do you think so? I'll wait for Mike when he's looking at something.
These are. Yes.
Right, so those items will not be cut.
Right.
Correct.
And again, if we want to look at some sort of like elimination of French in the future, then we just have to do it the right way. We have to
Phase it out, I
phase
think,
it
rather
out.
than.
Right.
Yep.
Mike, are you good?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we went. We're going to do a roll call vote. Tony?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Roxanne?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
There you go.
Whew. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So everything except for the-
So that was the culmination of a very long process that started in October.
Right.
And I can appreciate how difficult it is to go through that last piece of the journey.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
thank you
easy.
for making the recommendations too. We appreciate that because it is, easier for us when we can see it
Yep,
in front of us and have
Yep.
the rationale behind it.
no problem. And I thank the entire administrative team too, because they were a
Right.
part of that process as
Absolutely.
well. So I'm sorry, Yep, so now we're at the transfer of funds, right? So there's a lot going on the agenda today. So we're at end of the year transfers, is that?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to push this over to Mr. Penn to discuss this one.
So, and I think as most of you know from serving on the board before, we can't end the year with any deficit overall or any deficit in our accounts. I'm asking for the permission to make transfers between accounts at year end to budget to close everything out and close the books on the 2016-17 year.
So moved.
Second.
Karen, Mike, any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And there you go.
All right, the next item is the
We'll pass this out before
the
we get
non-lapsing capital expenditures sinking fund that you guys originally approved some new language around back in February. And so the Board of Finance took this up, rejected your language, not totally, but made a recommendation, a kind of counter proposal that they'd like us to consider. Yeah.
So you got a clean copy on the front of this and a black line copy showing changes on the back.
Thank you.
If you guys are interested and you've had enough fun for the night and you wanted to excuse yourself, I mean, by all means, you're allowed, willing to keep staying. I'm
If
sure
you want more
Amy,
cake, you can have more cake.
I assume Amy might have some exams to study for, and maybe you guys do too. So I just want to give you the option if you wanted to head out, that's up to you. There'll be no hard feelings. You stayed for the budget piece, so I was.
Bye, ladies, this last week.
Yep. Oh, I didn't say you guys.
You came out. No. They're like, girls.
All right. Yeah, I know. Bye, guys.
So, I mean, you could read this as well as I could speak to it. There is a bit of wordsmithing in here, but it achieves sort of the same goal that we set out to. It gives us the ability to continue to add into the fund each year as we go forward. The two key things is that they wanted to have some say in how much of any surplus we have gets designated into the sinking fund, which is in item 1. And that there's a little bit of wordsmithing, but it gets you to the same place in number 4, that, and it's the same process that just worked when we had this happen a couple of months ago. We make a recommendation for what we want to use the sinking fund for, and they sign off on it, right? But the key was we had capped the fund at 1% of what the prior year's budget was, and it couldn't grow past that. Now you have the ability to continue to actually put more money away, so that when you truly get into some of the very big capital items, you potentially have a pool of funds to go tap into when you got to go pave a parking lot, or you got to go replace windows, or you have some other major issue that comes up. Okay? I think the intent of this was to have an opportunity for you to review it tonight, either accept or reject it. If you accepted it, we would take it to tomorrow night's Board of Finance meeting and hopefully sign off on it there, which would be good. Because then we've got anything that we do at the end of this year could potentially become subject to the new agreement.
Let's have one question. Phil, initially we were at 0.5%, correct?
No.
No?
No. The total amount that you were allowed to accumulate in the fund was capped at 1%. So in other words, it could never grow past $238,000, give or take. This gives you the ability to put more money away each year, but you can't put away more than 1% of that year's budget.
So there's no cap on the total?
There's no cap on the
Just
total.
on the annual?
But the annual allocation you could put in is capped at 1% of your budget.
So let's say we have $230,000 left at the end of the year,
Yep.
and we want to put that 230
Yeah.
in here. It's under the 1%.
Yep.
Essentially, the Board of Finance can say, we're only going to let you put 100,000 in, and the other 130 you have to return to the town?
Yes.
And that was the language before and after.
And the way we would structure that was, yeah, you'd have to go back to and say, okay, we'd like to designate this amount of dollars out of our surplus to the sinking fund. So if you remember how this played out at the end of 16, and I could see it playing out the way at the end of 17 this year, we'll know what our surplus is when we come back in August, and I'd be looking for a motion to say, how much do you want to request be put into the sinking fund? And we make that, and then that would be a discussion item for the Board of Finance, probably for either, I don't know if they meet over the summer, it might be their September meeting.
I can answer it now, every dollar we can. There we go. So what's the difference in item 4, what's the difference between consent of the Board of Finance and approval of the Board of Finance? Because it seems to me like consent seems a little bit more like the chair could just say yes.
And maybe that's what they wanted. Was it something that actually requires an actual vote?
So, yeah, that's the concerning part, to be honest with you.
I spoke to Mr. Zovich, and he said they spent a long time talking about that particular word as well, because they were like, well, what does consent actually mean?
Right.
And so
Does it mean one person saying it?
they thought, right, they thought the spirit of the word consent means majority of the people think it's a good idea, which is the same, they would argue then, I don't want to speak for them,
Right.
which is the same as approval.
Well, then why do we need to change it?
They're not here to answer.
I know, I'm just saying, like, obviously they must have some very specific reason why they want that language changed.
I think they want to make it clear that it does need a vote,
Okay.
and that it does need to be a majority vote. So, yeah, I think they want to make that point clear.
Yeah, Karen, I would probably safe to assume is that they want you to come to the Board of Finance in front of them and say that we need X amount of dollars to be taken out of the sinking fund. And this is, and they want documentation
Got it.
of what we're actually taking the money out.
And they want to be happy, every one of them wants the power to say no.
Correct.
Right. Okay, Mike?
The interesting thing, though, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The interesting thing is, just keep in mind, the sinking fund, because this question came up from somebody else at some point. Only the Board of Education, unless Mr. Penn, you understand it differently.
This is our conversation.
Only the Board of Education can go to the Board of Finance and ask for funds.
Yeah.
No other group in
No,
town can
right.
say,
No.
hey.
It can't be used for anything
Right.
else.
No, it
So-
can only be used for the educational
Right,
side.
if they keep saying no to the Board of Education, that money just sits there,
It's just gonna sit there and
nobody
sit.
can touch it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and if
I
we
got it.
need to have
I
a
do.
roof fixed, then we have to tell the town, well, then go bond it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So, if
It's
the
in
money
their best interest to let us spend it. I
Yeah.
understand that.
And to be fair, we spent $33,000 out of the sinking fund this year on stuff that we didn't want to put in the capital budget for next year. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
If this is all contingent on what the finance board says, they have control over how much we can put into it,
Yeah.
correct? What's the point of having a 1% cap? We could tell them we want to put 50% in, and they can just say, no, you're going to put X amount in. I don't understand the cap, if it all depends on
The
the
biggest
board's
concern
permission.
they have, and again, I don't speak for that board, I don't intend to, but I've been part of those conversations, is with the way the fund balance basically almost eroded to zero in 2016, they're looking for mechanisms to how to build the fund balance back up over time. And the concern is that there's got to be some mechanism of figuring out, okay, if you have a $238,000 surplus, how much of that becomes designated for fund balance and how much of that becomes designated for sinking fund? I did not get the impression they were all just going to say no outright. That's not where this was going. But I think they wanted some say in how much of that surplus goes in.
And I've got two other points to that, because the 1%, which is what I think you're asking about specifically, is state statute. A Board of
Oh,
Education
okay.
can't
All right.
put,
Oh, I see
by
what you're
state
saying.
statute,
Okay.
We don't have a-
more than
that's-
1%.
That's just.
I was asking if they control it anyway.
Right, no.
Why the cap?
So
The
they,
the maximum under the statute that's listed in the top
All right.
there is
Right.
1%.
and I think what's important for the Board of Education to do is make sure we're telling the Board of Finance, we see the future of, you use the parking lot at the high school, we see the parking lot needing to be paved in 5 years. And our rough estimate is it's going to cost whatever,
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million. We want to start putting money in now to pay for that.
Right.
So if we have an identified need and we have savings, we could document that we were telling them for 5 years, please put this money in there.
Sure.
And then when it is there and time to pave, you simply take the money out and pay for it. So it's a great way to have money set aside for the Board of Education to do significant projects without having to go out and bond everything. So it's a win for the town in terms of planning.
Is the state limit at 1%, is that just for our district, or is that all?
Statewide.
Statewide.
Well, then, you have much bigger school districts that could put a lot more money away.
Yeah.
Correct, but theoretically, they have a much bigger plant that they're trying to support too.
Right, so,
More roofs, more paving, more, yeah.
All right.
That's why the percentage is a good way to balance it across the state.
I have a question. The way that the statute is written,
Yeah.
do we have to have approval by the Board of Finance?
You said they wanted some control. Does that mean
But-
total control?
I'm trying to remember how the statute was written.
No.
Yeah. And
I don't
remember.
have it with me either.
I don't have it with me. I'm not sure.
I mean, you're saying does the state statute,
Keep in mind, you already had a 2012 agreement, though, that basically did give the Board of Finance that level of control. That's not changed.
What I'm saying is, if I vote for this,
Yeah.
can the Board of Finance turn around and say, we're not going to let you put anything in?
Yes.
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 They could.
But they can do it even if you don't vote for it, because
Right.
it's already
Right.
written
It's
that
already
way.
Because you already have a
It's already there.
2012 agreement you're working
Yeah.
under right now.
How long does that 2012 agreement hold for?
Until
It's-
forever.
it's forever.
Until you rescind it.
That's why we were trying to change it a little bit, amend it, because we realized, well, personally, I thought it wasn't really working for us, so that's how it came about. And then they went back and rewrote part of it, and now we're kind of negotiating that. So
We're asking
if
for
we
more.
don't do this,
I know,
we
I
still
know.
have to go by the 2012 agreement. If we don't agree to this and they don't agree to this, we still have an agreement that we have to go by.
And it still gives them the power to deny us.
Exactly.
So this will override the 2012.
This will,
This clarifies it.
this, yeah.
It
Clarify.
basically says that in the very last paragraph that you're amending the 2012 agreement with this new one.
Yep.
Right,
This one allows us to save more money.
right.
I'm not asking about the money, I'm asking about who has the say-so over it.
They do. They do.
That's what I'm looking at.
Technically, you both do, right? Because you're gonna have a surplus. You're gonna designate an amount that you want to have go into the sinking fund, and then it becomes a negotiation.
And part of the thing is that we have to take into consideration too is this is long-term. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, Board of Finance, this year for this hypothetical 230,000 says, we want to build the fund balance, we're not gonna let you put anything in.
Yeah.
Well, now as a board, there's the possibility that we could turn around and say, okay, if this isn't gonna be something that you're gonna be approving going forward, then, we'll be sure that if we, thought that we were getting a little close on the budget, that we're not gonna, put a budget freeze into place. We're just gonna spend through the funds that we have, do the capital improvements we need to do. It's a two-way street, and it's being based, I think, on the good faith that both the Board of Finance and us wanna, make sure we put money away. So if they did do that and arbitrarily decide that's what they wanted to do, we do have a little bit of recourse, not maybe this year, but in subsequent years.
Everybody's looked at me. No, it's listen, I mean, you've heard me say the term before, it's the same checkbook, right? At the end of the day, it's the same checkbook. You're all taxpayers here, and you're trying to do the thing that overall works out best for the town. So who has control over it? Yeah, it's shared between both boards, no question about it. But this is a fundamentally better agreement than what you have right now that only caps you out at $238,000. That's not effective long-term.
So I don't think I was clear in my previous question. That's okay. I'm looking specifically at item number 4, any
Yeah.
withdrawal
Yeah.
has to be approved by the Board of Finance.
Yeah.
Is it in the statutes that we have to have Board of Finance approval to withdraw from the
I
sinking
don't
fund?
recall the exact statute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
But your current agreement agrees with that language.
it does.
Yeah.
questions or comments, concerns? Jerry?
Just to alleviate some people's concerns, like, in all the years I've been on the board, when we've had to go and get money in order to pay for a capital improvement, we've never ever been denied. And the money that we've always wanted to put into the sinking fund is always been agreed upon by the Board of Finance. They've never ever said that, no, you can only put in 100,000.
Anything else? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion. Anybody like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the non-lapsing capital expenditure sinking fund as presented.
I'll second that.
Karen, Chris, any other questions, comments, or concerns?
One comment, sorry.
No problem.
I'm reading the statute right now, and it basically does say that control over the control about putting money into the account is controlled by the Board of Finance. They do have ultimate say.
Okay.
The statute's silent on money coming back out.
It doesn't say anything. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
But item 4 does agree with what you have currently in your
Okay, so that's
existing
the law.
agreement. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Melissa?
I would like to see number 4 changed. If it's not in the statute that we have to get approval by the Board of Finance, I don't think that we should seek approval by the Board of Finance.
We can try, but they'll never agree with it.
And our current agreement gives them that control.
So they'll just deny this one so that we go back to the old one.
Exactly, that's
They're going to have it either way.
there's your catch-22 right there. Anything else before I do a roll call vote? Okay, Mike,
I don't like it, but yes.
Melissa,
No.
Chris,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Roxanne.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you.
So Phil and I will be bringing that over to the Board of Finance tomorrow. We're giving a quarterly report to the Board of Finance, so we're going to bring that over with us. I actually have it.
Okay.
So, and then the last item under new business is just in terms of our teacher evaluation and administrator evaluation plans. We believe we're going to need to make sure that, we're not 100% sure if the state needs a vote anymore. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If they need a vote on whether we're going to continue or change our teacher evaluation and administrator evaluation plans. The state has gotten far smaller, but we think it's just safe to have a vote. We're not recommending any changes to our teacher evaluation plan, our administrator evaluation plan. If we were making changes, we'd bring them and put them in front of you. But we essentially want to entertain a motion to continue the use of the state-approved Plymouth Public Schools Teachers and Administrators Evaluation Plan. So if for some reason they say we needed that vote, we would have had that in our minutes.
Anybody want to? Okay, Michelle. Anybody entertain that motion?
So moved.
Mike, second, Chris. Any discussions, concerns, comments? She never says anything, all of a sudden she does. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so board members' committee reports, curriculum?
The curriculum subcommittee did not meet in June.
Facilities?
The facility subcommittee did not meet on June 6, 2017.
Okay. Finance?
The Finance Subcommittee met at 6 p.m. prior to the board meeting, reviewed the accounts by facilities report for the month of May, and will forward the same to the Town of Plymouth Board of Finance.
Thank you. Negotiations?
The negotiation subcommittee did not meet in June.
Personnel?
We met at 6:30 prior to the board meeting. All items were addressed under the consent agenda.
Policy?
Policy Subcommittee met on Tuesday, May 16th, at 6:30 in the conference room at Central Office. Began the review of Policy Series 5000 regarding students. We also had a special Policy Subcommittee meeting on Tuesday, June 13th at 6:30 in the conference room, where we continued review of 5000 series. We will continue to look at the 5000 series on August 10th at 6 p.m. and August 15th at 6:30 p.m. Both meetings will be at Central Office.
Any questions? Since yours is the biggest. Okay, safety and transportation?
The Safety and Transportation Subcommittee did not meet on June 6, 2017. However, the subcommittee members were provided with the 2017-2018 meeting dates. These need to be adapted at tonight's Board of Education meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the dates.
I'll second that.
Actually, it came from committee, so Roxanne, I'll take you in a second, but any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Second public comment?
I don't think you're gonna have any.
Oh, wait. Danny.
I'm back.
Let me get my camera going.
Where were you, in the back?
I was hiding. Hang on.
It's 30 seconds for him.
30 seconds. Your 30 seconds starts now.
Please silence yourself.
Hey, it says 3 minutes. All
For
right, then
you,
I'll
make it
sign
special.
I'll sign my name afterwards. I'm gonna be fast. The only thing that I've been shouting about for a long time, which I didn't see on your list, I see that the part-time custodian, $16,000. CABE, what is it, 14 or 16,000 a year?
What?
I forgot. How much do we
CABE?
pay CABE?
11?
11, okay. But anyways, a part-time custodian, I think that helps out with your overtime, and it's just splitting hairs here. But I know CABE could give you a reduction. I would have loved to see if you wanted to cut CABE by 5,500. It would have just been something nice. And unfunded mandates, another pet peeve of mine. Everybody was talking about it, and there's money there to be found. And we gotta see unfunded mandates that do not have penalties. If they don't have a penalty, what harm will it be if it costs this district money if we don't do them? That's my input. It's been I haven't said it in a while, so maybe I'll have to be more repetitious as a reminder. But I haven't said it in a while, 300 unfunded mandates or whatever it is. Something to think about when you make cuts. That's what I would love to see.
Can I just ask a question? Do you have like a list of those?
There
unfunded-
is.
We talk about unfunded mandates all the time. I don't know what an
We have
unfunded
it.
mandate is.
Yeah.
Phil,
Yeah, we have it.
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them, but you have to see
I mean,
if there's
it is.
any
I don't know what they
penalties.
are. That's
If there's no
not really
penalties,
describe it.
We have the list. The harder part that Mr. Gentile's referring to is if you stop doing something, what happens?
Yeah.
right,
Right.
that's what you gotta figure out.
That's the
Right.
hard part to figure out.
Right.
The other part is a lot of these unfunded mandates have now all been intermingled. Like they're all
Right.
like this web of unfunded mandates. And
Yes.
it's hard to just unravel one hair
Right.
from that web. I'm mixing metaphors, but it doesn't matter. There it is. But they really have really muddied the waters, and there's been lots of pushes this year. And there's some reductions in unfunded mandates this year, but I'm not seeing them actually save us any money. And I'm sure there's going to be some additions that I'll be reading about shortly that we'll have to do more training. A lot of them are around these training around professional development. And Ms. Parsons and I were looking at all these changes and how they're supposed to be beneficial, but we're not finding how it's actually reducing our responsibilities to train our teachers. So I appreciate what Mr. Gentile says, and with the CABE, the only thing that I have to say about that, Dan, is they're doing a great amount of support with
I
our
know.
policy work, and one of the requirements in order to get to be part of the policy work is to be a full member of CABE. So
We didn't
that's
put that in
something
our
we could,
policy.
that's something we could look at in the future, but they've been very supportive. We've been able to get through all these policies because of their support. So that's been very beneficial to us,
No,
but we
I
can look
understand it,
at
but we're almost done with our policies.
We're getting there.
This is next year's budget.
Next budget, we can talk about
right,
it.
Finish them,
Right.
and then, but CABE will give you a reduction if you ask. Just, they will, because they, look at their budget. Jerry knows how much money they have. They're a healthy,
Then I will ask.
yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. They give us half off this year, and, well,
I will ask for a reduction.
Yeah, it won't hurt. It's just a little something to try and save it. And we're just, like I said before, it's splitting hairs. It's on a $24 million budget. That's nothing. You got to find big stuff. We'll work on big stuff. I have ideas. Thank you. Look out.
Thank you, Danny. I guess I don't have to ask for any comments. All right, moving on to board liaisons. I'm first. Harriet Fisher. I did get their minutes, and I had a conversation with Mrs. Rohansky. Unfortunately, I really don't have anything to report out of their minutes, so what I've decided to do next year is actually take what she tells everybody at Brown Bag and actually report out, because their minutes don't give me what I was looking for, so I apologize, I don't have a report for them. Mike?
Plymouth Center PTO met last night in the air-conditioned teacher's room, is that right? Instead of the hot gym. It was nice. Some of the topics discussed were the mixed bag fundraiser, which was considered a success. It made about $2,100 in profit. The Some Dog program. This is a online computer program in which students can compete with students from other schools in math and also in English and language arts. PTO is going to fund that for $826. And they also budgeted $120 in next year's budget for book bags for grades 1 to 3. Monday will be 5th grade celebration. Tuesday will be field day from 9 to 10 at Plymouth Center. They completed their election for officers. And if I can read my own writing here. Nope, that's it.
Okay, any questions? All right, moving on. Eli Terry.
So Eli Terry PTA had their final meeting of the school year on the 30th. Since then, they've had their mentor picnic, which through the rumor mill, I've heard it was a great success. They're finishing up the Charles Street project for what can be done through now and anticipate having things ready for the fall. They had their 8th grade social on June 9th. Sadly, it was scheduled to be at the Lyceum. The Lyceum double booked, so everything got moved to the back to the middle school. And I have to say, the information, the feedback I got from parents and students about the night was that our staff responded very well to the last minute change and made sure that this was still a really special night for the kids. So I'm glad to hear that, because I know a lot of them were really looking forward to it. I've seen a ton of pictures, and our students looked great, had a good time, so I'm very thrilled for them. We had Saturday Academy on June 10th, which, for those of you that don't know, Miss Suffrage opens up her door the Saturday before marking terms end, and she sits in on a Saturday to allow kids that need to finish makeup work to come in and submit that work. This is totally volunteer, and it's something she does on her own to support her students, and I want to give kudos to her, because I think that's pretty great that she's there on a Saturday to help these kids that can't necessarily get things done during the week. So that was great. Their grades close on the 16th, and their promotion ceremony will be on the 21st. For the parents that are going, doors will open at 9:15 and the ceremony starts at 10. And I'm looking forward to attending and seeing the students that are leaving the 8th grade and moving on up to the high school next year.
Any questions? Okay. Terryville, high school.
I was unable to make the last meeting. I think we had a meeting the same night. However, I know they are actively seeking people for the PTSA after grad committee, because most of them were parents of seniors and are obviously moving on. So anyone who's interested in helping out, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. SEPTA?
The SEPTA meetings for this school year are over. However, we do have on July 29th a SEPTA picnic.
Thank you. Ed Connection?
I was not at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Umoga?
We've been on Monday night. We reviewed the programs and events over the last couple of months. And then we were introduced to the new president of the FFA, and we did a little bit of an outlook on 17-18 school year, and that was pretty much it. So.
Thank you. Kate?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to Cave this month because of work-related issue, but just to build on Mr. Gentile, I have been to meetings where they've talked about other school districts that want to get out of Cave, and the representative that's for Cave that is of that district, because I think there's 8 districts in Cave, is asked to go talk to them. And I'm sure Mr. Rader, who's in charge of Cave, probably gives some financial incentives to go along without totally getting out of Cave. So it's probably in the best interest of you, Dr. Semmel, to see if you can negotiate with Mr. Rader.
That's who I'm going to be emailing.
Okay. Final board comments? Mike?
It's been an enjoyable year. I like working with everybody. I would like to thank the board chair for not assigning me to the policy subcommittee. That's it.
Anyone else?
First of all, I want to congratulate the teachers that are retiring. I'm sure they're looking forward to some peace and quiet. And tonight, knowing how many years those 4 alone have put into our district is phenomenal. We're going to lose some really great people out of our district. Not to say that we won't have really good people coming in to replace some of them, but you know, kudos to them for sticking it out, taking care of our children the way they do, and being role models. To the seniors, of course, congratulations. Some of them we've all gotten to know very well. Some of them we don't get to see as much, but they have a great journey ahead of them, so I wish them all the best of luck. And to the rest of our teachers, your summer starts next week. Congratulations and have fun.
Jerry?
I would like to congratulate Mrs. Seymour on her Teacher of the Year award. Both my kids had her, and when I got my board packet, actually when I got the Plymouth Connection and read that she was in there, I pointed it out to my wife and to my kids, and they were ecstatic. So congratulations, Mrs. Seymour. To the individuals that retired, we only had 4 this evening that came, but I'm sure there was more than 131 years of educators that were actually retiring. Marty, I would probably say to assume it's well over 200.
Yep.
Okay, so it is a big loss for this community, but congratulations to them in their retirement. And hopefully the individuals that we get to replace them add another 200 years of service to this district, and thank them for their work.
Anyone else? Okay, ditto, Denise, I'm so proud. She's going to represent our district beautifully, so I'm really excited for her to be our Teacher of the Year. We actually had 10 retirees, so happy retirement, congratulations, I hope you all enjoy it. Thanks to our entire staff and district. Have a good summer, for those of you who have the summer off, because I know some of our people do not, but enjoy your summer. For all of you, thank you for making this year so wonderful and kind of uneventful. It's been nice. I think we did well this year. I think we worked well. So thank you for being great team members. I appreciate it, and it's made my job a lot easier, so thank you to all of you. To our students, I'm going to miss those 2 seniors, especially, you know, we had Nora 2 years, and Riley, she's just, I love them. I'm happy that we have Amy back, and congratulations to the 2 new ones coming in. I'm excited about the STEM class working with the Lock Museum. Like, I read it, but it didn't dawn on me until you said it, so now I want to go look for it. Do we have like a link to our website for that?
From our website to the Lock Museum?
Like,
we don't.
It's just something to think about. I know Rich is in. Can we do it? All right, thank you.
I'm surprised it wasn't done
I was
immediately
just
when you
saying.
said it. So
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, wait, do we have a link? So, and I get to present something, but this is from the entire board. We would like to thank Ms. Pat for all of your support this entire year.
Right.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
You do everything for us.
Yes,
It's
you
just a
deserve
little-
Uh-oh, Mike, you're in
and
trouble.
more.
So much crying tonight.
Thank you very much.
She really is awesome.
She is.
Yes, she is.
Absolutely. We all love her.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and I didn't even cry yet, so this is good. So our next board meeting will not be in July, so you will not see us here. The next regular board meeting will be Wednesday, August 9th, 2017, 7 o'clock here in the cafeteria at Terryville High School. Okay, now I'm like, now I'm gonna cry because I had to get through that. So we need to though go into executive session, so I'd like a motion to go into executive session at 9:10, and I would like to discuss a personnel matter and extension of the contract for our superintendent of schools, and Dr. Summer, I would like to invite into that session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roxanne, Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Into regular session at 20 after 9.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron, Tony, all in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the revised superintendent's contract as submitted during our executive session.
I'll second it.
Coming out of committee doesn't necessarily need a second, but thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? He knows. I didn't want to say it, but, okay. Here you go.
All right.
All right, a motion to adjourn at
So moved.
Second.
9:21. Roxanne, Chris, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? And there we have it.